questions in the audience? Back over here.
I think
A mic's coming.
Susan and I are doing a panel later this afternoon. I encourage you all to come. It will be on universities. I would like to play Dr. Au Contraire for just a moment, if I may. I am a digital immigrant. I have been trying to think about where have I last been where I've heard so much optimism and so much enthusiasm, so little concern, so little fright about, oh my God, what have we unleashed, as these last 2 days. And what it brought me back to was being a student in the 50s at Harvard Medical School, where we really believed in atoms for peace. And I was busily pipetting radioactive chromium, and only years later did I learn that the Atomic Energy Commission, as it was then called, was testing our badges, but that was not how you were absorbing radiation at that time. We were going to have electricity that was too cheap to meter. We were going to have airplanes, escalators, elevators. All would be powered by civilian nuclear power. We wouldn't worry about the back end, as it was ungraciously called, of the nuclear fuel cycle. I feel I've heard the same kind of excitement here, which I share to a large extent. I am not a Luddite when it comes to science. But I wanted to begin with Brook's last point, which was policy. Now, you put Jim Watson's name up there as someone who was one of the early people to have his genome done. He made the request that he didn't want to know whether or not he was susceptible to Alzheimer's. Now, Jim Watson could do that. But if one of us had this done and we were going for a job, and the employer said, oh, we're only taking people if you'll give us your human genome. And I said, likelihood of depression, likelihood of Alzheimer's. Terribly sorry, Mrs. Zinberg, we just don't have room for you. I think those aspects of it have to go hand in hand with all of the optimism you're showing. I also think the financial aspects have to go with it. I remember the first big splurge was it called the Human Genome? It was the company that was started in Baltimore.
Right. I think maybe we can only handle one of those, right?
Oh, okay. But I just wanted
to give everybody else a
I'm sorry, but I've been saving.
Okay. So let's go to the privacy issue, which I've touched on. I said that word, and I'm optimistic about it. One reason is that last year Congress, and I'm not usually that happy with what they pass, but Congress passed the Genome Information Non-Disclosure Act, GINA. And that went very, very far to not having any discrimination in the workplace and other places about that information. Second is that it's always going to be an opt-in. And this gets in a real interesting conversation we can have later, if any of you want, about who owns your genome, who owns your data. You do. And that's what personalized genomics is about, personalized genetic testing of susceptibility and all of that. That battle is going on right now in Congress and a bit at the FDA in the Waxman hearings 2 weeks ago, as who should be able to make this decision. Is it always the doctor, or is it someone making policy and a regulatory body, or all of that? But those reasonable concerns, I go with Eric Schmidt yesterday saying we need public policy evolution and decision on this. We need more doctors, scientists, and engineers in Congress.
Brooke, can I just make one quick point? Because I think the issues of privacy and patient confidentiality are very big and very serious. But I would submit that sequencing genomic information arrays may feel scarier in terms of privacy because of the extent of the content. But knowing whether or not your employee smokes is, frankly, a far better predictor of their expensive negative health outcomes today than many of the things we would learn in sequencing. So I think our opportunities in science, the ability to sequence, doesn't change our need to keep patient confidentiality. But today we have information about family history, habits, medications, and the like that convey at least as much, if not more, information. So I think it's all a piece.
Right.
I'd say it's, it's not illegal to discriminate based on phenotype, right? So if you were asking for an insurance policy, you will get asked to have a medical exam. They say they don't like they'll drop you. They have no need to cover you. So the fact that you may be protected, the genome may be protected, doesn't mean anything else is. And that's just sort of one of the structural flaws, I think. In
More to be done. Over here? Question? Right here.
A scientific question. I'm a director of a company that's come out of UCSF. We are deep in biological research, and what we're finding, and we're not unique, it's throughout the industry, how complex the interactions are. It isn't gene A produces effect B, and you can neatly affect that gene, and then you can neatly produce the effect you want. It doesn't work that way. It's much more complex in terms of the interactions. So my question from a scientific point of view, do you have a sense of the strategies that we're going to begin to develop, both from a therapeutic point of view as well as from a kind of research perspective, for dealing with these higher order complexities and trying to understand the biology?
Disease networks, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, so certainly. I mean, and you know, people are pursuing those questions at many different levels. One that I'm passionate about is this idea of dissecting heterogeneity. I mean, real tissue is complicated. Not all the cells of an organ are the same, and having the ability to pull them apart one by one and interrogate them individually, I think, is going to be incredibly revealing. And so a large part of my group's research is doing that. And you know, others are looking at equally valuable aspects, things like gene expression networks and how genes all work together by measuring in parallel what virtually the whole transcriptome is doing. That's also an approach that is addressing some of those issues.
The other thing I would mention is the ability to use combination therapy and to use biomarkers. Ultimately, we're going to need combinations of targeted therapies to treat most of the important diseases. And thinking about the right strategy, so you dial something up, you dial something down. I think both imaging to look at signal and also biomarkers will help us look at, you know, do we need one from column A and one from column B? But we need to figure out a regulatory path to allow for combination therapy.
And we've hit that wall.
Yeah. I think that is happening. There are several companies, particularly in cancer, that are working on combination therapy. And the key to success is a rational biologic pathway. I am very confident that at least in the US, the FDA is open to combinations if the pathways make sense. I think it's possible.
Okay, we're going to need to wrap it up. I'd like to ask each of you to just predict something in the future, let's say 10 years out. Just one thing, a dream of yours, an aspiration, but something, not just an aspiration, but something you think in a reasonable progression of science and translation, what we'll see.
10 years out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah. Well, you know, for sure, I'm hoping we have new drugs that will kill cancer stem cells. I think that's within 10 years.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I'd say my can I have two?
Yes?
I'm greedy. The first thing is also related to cancer. I think 10 years out, being able to cure one of the most common 4 cancers, so prostate, lung, breast cancer, and colon cancer, really being able to cure those cancers because they're efficiently detected early and treated appropriately. So a cure for a common cancer is my first wish. And I would say the second one is major advance in Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is just breaking open. It's so important for a rapidly aging population, as all of us are, and having an early diagnostic for Alzheimer's that allows us to test new therapies. I think that's 10 years away.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And thank you all. And Rodney, again, thank you for inviting us.